Alright, so welcome back, guys, or welcome if this is your first time here. I'm Vision here with Blind Entertainment, bringing you guys another video. Today I'm going to be doing my review for Dark Phenix that came out last Friday. So, let's begin my review for Dark Phenix now. So, we start off the movie doing a flashback to 1975 with a young Jean Grey and her parents driving in the car. And the way I picture this scene is, it's not told to us, but I'm assuming this is right when she figures out her powers. And she inadvertently causes a massive car crash that kills her mom. And she is then given into the custody of Charles Xavier. Now, I really liked the opening. It was very dark and gritty. Then you got her going to meet Charles Xavier. And I loved the back and forth between the young Jean Grey and Charles. I thought that was really good. And the whole back and forth about him gonna help her, and how, you know, she's not like, she can control her powers and everything. I really like that back and forth. Good opening there, but then you jump forward into present, or not the present, but 1992. And you got the X-Men, and they're now pretty much after what happened in Apocalypse have become like heroes and are actually looked upon as equals and are really like become famous. Now, one of the biggest cons people have made about this film is Professor X and how he's portrayed in this film. However, I kind of like it. I found a different take on it was very good. Because if you think about it, going back to First Class, which started off this new film series, is that he's always wanted to be accepted. That's been Professor X's main goal. This whole series is being accepted and being looked upon instead of having to fight. And they even go into that talk between him and Mystique about how he's finally become accepted, and you see that it's kind of gone to his head where he's not thinking about the safety of the team anymore, and he just wants to do it for fame in a way, and he's okay with that. I like that. It's a different take on the character. Like I said, you got them present day, and they are going into space because there's a solar flares that's endangering a shuttle. So they go in to rescue the astronauts at the space shuttle. You got some good scenes with Nightcrawler and Quicksilver. Really good scenes there. But then you got the last person that they got to get out, but they can't do it without holding the ship together. So Jean goes out to hold it together so that they can get the last person out. However, they're unable to get her back in time, and she is struck by the solar flare and absorbs, I guess, the Phoenix Force. So I really like that scene. It was very good space scenes, and I just love the look on the X-Men's faces as they watch from their shuttle and aren't able to do anything. It just was a great moment. And you got them, they're able to get her back, and they return home. And the one thing I really like is how when they return home and you got this huge crowd of people applauding them. And like I said, going back to them being heroes, you can even see a little girl holding like a Mystique doll or figure or something like that. So they've become like this big thing. So again, it goes back to why Xavier is acting the way he is. And you got them returning home, and you got Jean kind of, she's still sort of normal, but on the edge of like turning into the Dark Phenix. So you got that. You have Beast do a medical exam on her, and everything. Her readings are like off the charts, so he's got a little bit concerned. Now, during this time, you also get some good back and forth between Beast and Mystique, because you got Raven, who's saying that they're the last ones, and she's concerned about what Charles is doing that, letting everything go to his head. And she says, let's go away, we should run away, we're the last ones from the First Class left. I really like that. But he's saying, no, we gotta trust in Charles, we can stick through this, we'll make it through. But then you got Jean, the Phoenix Force has broken this hold that Charles had put on her as a young kid. He put a block on her, a psychological block, I guess you'd say, to block out that memory of the car crash. But what happened to her in space is making her memory come back, and she ends up finding out she ends up having this big, like, I guess, psychic kind of power surge during a party, blacks out, and she ends up blocking Professor X from reading her mind. She goes back to her childhood home, where she confronts where she confronts her dad, who she finds out is still alive. So I really like that scene. The dad and her scenes, I like them, but I don't. I feel like, yeah, they were okay, but were they necessarily needed? I feel like we could have. I feel like they were there to make her reach her breaking point when the X-Men arrive. So I get why I needed them there, but at the same time, it feels like they didn't need it to happen. Then you got the X-Men who arrive, and they end up engaging in a fight. In the midst of the fight, Quicksilver is injured, so he's out of commission for the rest of the movie, and we saw it in the trailer, but she kills Raven. So I really like that. I know fans were mad that they spoiled it and that they actually killed off one of the leading characters, but I'm okay with it. Because it adds this to the movie. And it adds this whole moment of, oh my God. And it just puts our characters on a different course moving into the second and third act of this movie. And I love the moment between Beast and Mystique as she's dying and how she mouths, "I love you," calling back to the beginning where they had this love between the two of them, which didn't really go anywhere, but was kind of disappointing. But I still like that they called back to that. They go back and they have the funeral for Mystique, and you got Hank, who is pissed, and he feels betrayed by what Charles did and putting that psychic block on Jean. And I just love how Charles just is not even paying attention. He's just kind of deflecting everything. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just doing it to help her. But Hank doesn't see that way, and he loses it and storms out of the mansion. You got Jean, who goes to visit Magneto, or Eric, at his new compound Geneva, and asks for help to try to figure out how to control this evil in her. And he notices the blood. I love that moment. That was a great scene between the two of them. Now, before that, though, you go back and you see Jean at night trying to wash away the blood of Mystique off her. And she's just so distraught over what she did. And she just is trying to wash away the blood. And I really like it. To me, it calls back to the Macbeth book where, Lady Macbeth is trying to wash away the blood off her hands. It kind of reminded me of that. I really liked it, but Eric going back, he kind of says, "No, I'm not going to help you." And the military shows up, and Jean freaks out and goes all crazy on the military, and he demands that she leave at that point. And she ends up going off on herself. After she leaves, you got Beast, who shows up, and he informs her of what happens. And I know fans don't like the turn that Beast made and joining Eric and his group of people. Now, for me, I get it, because he loved Mystique, and he's just trying to deal with the grief of it all. And I can understand where he's coming from in a sense. And I like that different turn of events where Beast is with Eric and they decide to go kill Jean Grey. So I really like that. But then you got Jean on her own, and she's out there. And that's where you run into, I think the character's name is Volk, played by Jessica Chastain. Her and her group of people. This is one where I have mixed feelings on. Actually, I'm not going to say I have mixed feelings on. I'm going to say they were definitely not necessarily needed. I feel like if they just had this fight between the X-Men and Jean Grey, it would have made the movie a lot better. Volk and her group of shapeshifters just felt kind of unnecessary and just in there for cannon fodder for the final fight. Because you couldn't really kill Jean Grey. You needed to have her have this redemptive moment at the end. I mean, it was okay, but none of her people are very important. Her herself is, but none of the others are important. One of the things that I think hurt the movie that it was less than 2 hours. I think if they gave it a longer runtime, we could have gotten a little bit more with Volk and her people. But I'm going to say that's probably the biggest con I have. But she wants the Phenix power in Jean, and she's going to wants to help her and get it and take it for herself so she can use it to rebuild their planet on Earth. From what I gather, the Phenix Force destroyed her people's home planet, so she wants to use that power to rebuild her planet on Earth. But then you got the X-Men who decide to go after Jean, and they end up finding Beast and Magneto in the crosshairs right before they're about to fight her. Now, I really love the scene on the streets there. You can go see the sneak peek if you haven't already, where you had this back and forth between Eric and Charles, and how Eric's you're always apologizing, and there's always a speech, but no one cares. I love that speech from Eric. That was probably one of my favorite X-Men speeches. I don't know, maybe of the the revitalized or reversed new series. I really liked that speech. It was very good. But then you got Beast who freaks out, and you got this epic fight that happened on the streets of New York City, and it was just awesome. I thought that fight scene between Magneto's group and the X-Men were awesome, because it was like just pure fight, comic book fighting that it just like you could have seen it come right from the page. It was awesome, and it was just really, really good. Now, in these moments, in this fight scene, you also get to see the rise of Cyclops and his rise to the leadership of the X-Men. Because in this movie, he's pretty much Professor X's right-hand man, because he's always there right by his side, helping him get to Jean Grey. So I love that. So this is not only Jean Grey's story, but it's also showing, if we had gotten more, the rise of Cyclops into that leadership role. So they try to go in to stop Eric. Eric goes in, but he is overpowered by Jean. His helmet is destroyed, and he is thrown out, and I guess very badly injured from what I could tell. Like, I guess not badly injured because he's able to fight later, but he was put out of commission for a little bit. But then you got Cyclops and Professor X who go in, and you got Professor X who's overpowered, and I love the scene where she's like, you told me I could do anything with my powers. It was, I could make anything better. And she makes him walk up the stairs. It was a really, really good scene. And you finally got Professor X who breaks through to Jean right at the last moment, but then Volk ends up using her powers, I guess, to distract the Phenix Force, which nearly kills her. Cyclops is about to stop him, but that's when the military shows up and tranquilizes all of the mutants and captures them all and takes them away. Now, I really like that. The one thing I wish that they had done differently in this movie is that the military were just random people or military people. I kind of wish that they had used William Stryker from the previous two movies. I think that would have been a lot better. It would have been a lot more interesting as well. But then you got them on the train. Charles finally comes to a realization that he was wrong and apologizes to everybody. And as they're going, Volk and her people show up on the train, and the soldiers try to fight them off. Bullets do nothing on them. So after, you got the soldiers who free the X-Men, and again, you got this epic fight with all the X-Men and Magneto's people teaming up together to take on Volk. And it was just awesome. You just had this back and forth. Again, you get some awesome Storm moments. I wish we had gotten more from Storm in this movie. Got Beast going crazy on people, and Magneto opening fire with guns. Now, the one thing I found stupid in this third act moment was when they used the guns and were opening fire after they weren't. Bullets do nothing to them. Like, that felt just stupid. But they still use them. But you got Charles and Cyclops trying to get to Jean to save her, and everybody just going crazy. And you got Nightcrawler, who he goes all crazy, like back from X2. Like, it was awesome. Really great scenes there. And you got Charles and Cyclops. You finally get to Jean, rescue her, break her free, and she ends up unleashing her full force, taking on everybody, and goes after Volk and uses her powers to destroy her. And I guess, I don't know really what happened to Jean at the end. It was kind of confusing to me. But you got everybody kind of just, after that, everybody just sees them as a hero. Professor X retires. You got Hank becoming the new dean of the school, and they renamed the school the Jean Grey School. So I really like that. Nice nod to her. Just awesome, awesome ending. And then they end the movie coming full circle with Eric and Charles sitting down at a cafe playing chess, calling back to the first ever X-Men movie, and it was awesome. They pan up and you see the Phenix symbol in the sky, and it ended. So I gotta say, really, really good movie. If I had to give it a grade, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. Really good movie. Yeah, guys, that's my review of Dark Phoenix. As always, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and share. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and hit that bell icon. That way you're missing more movie reviews from me moving forward. This is my Vision here with Blind Entertainment, and I'll see you next time.